Mike, it is good to see you for two reasons. First of all, your award-winning personality.
Well, thank you very much.
But it also means spring, isn't it?
It does. It's finally here. It seems like it's taken forever, but it feels good. We've got some teams on the diamond that are looking really exciting, and one or two that are a little bit surprised not doing as well as we thought.
Well, you are going to give us the big picture. So for those who haven't followed Big Ten baseball to this point, our big story today is going to be catching you up. So here's what's going on. There is one Big Ten team currently ranked. That is Maryland. They check in at number 23. Purdue is off to an excellent start. This is a team that finished 10 games under 500 last year, won its first 15 games this season. Rutgers has been the best hitting team thus far. Iowa joins the Scarlet Knights and the Boilers among the top 30 in the nation in ERA. So let's talk about the ranked team first. Mike, give us a sense for Maryland. What do we need to know about the Terps?
Well, the Terps have a great historical program that's put a number of players in the minor leagues, major leagues. Brandon Lau right now with the Tampa Bay Rays, probably the most famous. But I tell you what, Rob Vaughn in his 5th year, all these coaches under 5-10 years, it's kind of amazing that you've had to go through these 2 years of a pandemic trying to keep that baseball program at a high level. And last year, he really did a good job. 30-18, got an NCAA bid. And I tell you what, for these guys, they came out of the blocks hot. They beat Baylor, swept them at Baylor, which was awesome. They followed that up the next weekend going down to North Carolina, playing a tough Campbell team, not wildly known, but really good baseball program, and swept them. So they came out of the blocks hot. They've had some great pitching, right now second in the Big Ten, and they've been able to do some timely hitting. A theme that we're going to see a little bit today is some of these Big Ten coaches have done a really good job with the portal transfer, as well as finding those junior college players that have been able to mature for a couple years and then step into not only just playing in the Big Ten, but playing a big role on their teams in the Big Ten.
So I noticed a lot of power for Maryland, too. They've hit 41 home runs already?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. You think about a team like a Penn State that has a really small ballpark, or the historical Michigans, Minnesotas as those power teams. But Maryland has come out swinging the bat hot. One of their players, a catcher we're going to be talking about also, is one of those kind of surprise players this year, but a transfer from another college.
So 41 homers in 24 games for them. And then, as you said, the staff is holding its opponents to 227. You put that together, and there's a reason you're ranked in the top 25 in the country.
Exactly.
Terps coming off an impressive win yesterday. That is our big stat today. How about these numbers? Beat Towson, scored 26 runs in the game, their most in 15 years, 23 hits, which was just 2 shy of the school record. 5 players with 3 or more, led by Troy Schreffler, who had 4 hits and drove in 5. It moved the Terps to 10-0 at home. How about Michigan? NCAA tournament team a year ago. What have we seen from the Wolverines so far?
Well, the Wolverines, preseason number 2 from the coaches in the Big Ten, and sort of stumbled coming out of the block. We think about their 2019, getting to that runner-up. Oh, my gosh, how exciting was that year? And you would have thought Eric Bakich, National Coach of the Year. Now the recruiting is going to go even up higher, and we're going to be able to maintain and just kind of retool, not rebuild. But for some reason this year, they've stumbled a little bit hot, a little bit cold. And really, it's on all parts of the game. Their pitching is not a top 3, which it's been in the past. Their hitting is not a top 3, which it's been in the past. Their defense is not a top 3 in the Big Ten, top 5 in the Big Ten, which is something they've done in the past. So I don't know if it's underperformed in one specific area, but they've really kind of stumbled out of the block. And maybe this last weekend, you think about Michigan. How do you start the Big Ten season? You have to go to Nebraska, who's a preseason number 1, and then you have to come back and play Iowa, who's preseason number 3. They took 2 out of 3 from Nebraska. So maybe if they can take 2 out of 3 or sweep Iowa, then we're going to see that Michigan team that we've seen in years past.
And we'll get to Nebraska in a minute, because off the top you said there's some teams that are outperforming, there's some teams that are underperforming. Nebraska definitely falls in that latter category, and fascinated to hear your take on them. You can see Michigan in action today, Big Ten plus. They are taking on Oakland, and then, as you mentioned, that series with the Hawkeyes this weekend. Fair to say Rutgers is a bit of a surprise. I mean, this is a team that was not picked in the top 6 in the Big Ten in the preseason, but off to a really nice start.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the 2 teams that is a huge surprise in the Big Ten. But when you think about Steve Owens, this is only his 3rd year there. But Steve is literally the 10th most winning coach of active coaches in the NCAA right now. his third year at Rutgers, and what did we see the first two? Pandemic. Now, he's done a good job of being able to bring in some transfers, some graduates that from other schools, and really put together a ball club that is putting a lot of pressure on teams. They are first in the Big Ten hitting over 325. Second team in the Big Ten team hitting is 286.
Wow.
So it's a huge margin. They've got 9 players with over 12 RBIs. They've got 6 players hitting over 300. So they're doing some great things swinging the bat. And again, bringing in some pitching and some hitters that has kind of surprised some of the Big Ten. But when you look at Steve Owens and his history as coaching, you know, he's brought a lot of teams to the NCAA tournament, and it looks like he's got Rutgers on that path as well.
8th in the nation in batting average. So to your point, I mean, you can hit, you're going to win a lot of games.
Yep.
They have St. Peter's coming up today. We'll hope that the Peacocks baseball team doesn't capture the magic of the Peacocks basketball team.
Well, yeah, I know. How exciting was that?
That's a great story.
Unfortunately for our Purdue fans and brethren. I wanted to add one more thing about Rutgers. First in the Big Ten defense.
Okay.
So again, you talk about, can I do things pitching? Can I do things fielding? That's going to win you a lot of games. But when you put the #1 hitting team in the Big Ten as well, that puts you into a really good spot leading into the Big Ten season.
Weekend series with Minnesota, so we'll start to get a sense of how they stack up with Big Ten opposition. I mentioned Purdue's hot start. I mean, this is an amazing story. I mean, they were the last team in the country to lose a game.
16-36 last year, and now all of a sudden you've got 18 wins.
All right, so what happened here? I mean, how does that happen?
Well, it's a little bit of good scheduling. They haven't really challenged themselves with a top 20, top 10 team the way virtually every other Big Ten school has.
Got it.
So there's a little bit of that, but even that being considered, you have to win the games. I don't care if on paper you look better. We've seen a lot of teams in the NCAA basketball tournament look better on paper than to lose.
Yes.
So to go out and continue to win, to go out and put the pressure, Greg Goff has done a great job of saying what's going to be our sort of kind of biggest arrow in the quiver. And for him, it's putting pressure on the other teams. These guys are stealing bases all over the place in the Big Ten. Like, again, 20 stolen bases more than the next team. Right now, 57 for 65.
Wow.
So you combine that, again, with the second best defense in the Big Ten, combine that with the first best pitching in the Big Ten, now you've got a chance to put a lot of pressure on some teams that might not necessarily, be ready for a Big Ten opponent. You're having some good pitching, you have some great defense, so every team has to make those 1 or 2 chances they get guys on base come through, and Purdue's doing a good job of not letting it happen.
It's interesting because we've seen such a move away from stolen
small
bases
ball.
in the major league area. So is it in college baseball, is it still viewed as, hey, that's a valid strategy to be a team that runs a lot?
I think as a coach, you have to find what your MO is.
Yeah.
And if you've been able to recruit some of the guys like we're going to talk about, that, at Rutgers, at Indiana, some of the monsters, that's one thing. But if all of a sudden you're realizing the athletes that I'm really pulling in here are like the speed guys, I think it's very easy in the college ranks to shift that dynamic and say, I'm going to be a pitching and defense kind of guys. Because guess what? There's still a lot of people in the major leagues that like fast outfielders that can play really good defense and maybe not hit that good.
Let's get into the Nebraska story. You mentioned it off the top. I mean, this is a team that was ranked in the preseason in just about every poll, kind of toward the bottom of the top 25. But again, there was a lot expected of Nebraska and a team picked to compete at the very top of the Big Ten. You don't want to sound alarm bells, right? I mean, you still have essentially the entire conference season left to go. However,
yes,
it's
you're
not
absolutely
been
right.
what Husker fans expected. So give us a sense of what you think is going on.
Well, it's expectations. I mean, part of it was that you won the Big Ten regular season, you went to the NCAA tournament, you had the Big Ten Coach of the Year, and you had a top 20 recruiting class coming in. So everyone is thinking, okay, we're at the top of the hill. We had the best recruiting class in the Big Ten, so we're just going to maintain that. But guess what? Freshmen, no matter how good they are, it's still the Big Ten. Yeah. And it's still tough competition. And Will Bolt does a great job of, again, scheduling some tough opponents early on where Nebraska sort of staggered coming out of the block. I think it was surprising that they got swept by Sam Houston in the first series. I think it was they won 1 out of 4. I think it was very surprising that he got swept by TCU right afterwards. But that's what people like Rick Heller have done, Eric Bakich has done, even Vaughn has done in Maryland, is going down and facing some really tough competition early to challenge his players, and the players have stepped up. I think this time around, because again, you have a lot of young players, albeit highly ranked and recruited, that when they face that real consistent kind of high D1 level competition, it's a little bit different. And I think as they staggered coming out of the block, being 1-7 or 1-6, now they start to find their stride a little bit, and a little bit of like with Michigan, we talked about very tough opening series going to Nebraska, winning 2 out of 3, which was great for Michigan. For Nebraska, you got to be thinking, okay, we could have won 2 out of 3 against Michigan. So now how do we take even just winning 1 out of 3, find that positive, and then take the next 2 or 3 weekends and get back into not only the Big Ten scene, but the national scene?
It's interesting. I noticed that Bolt was very public in saying, hey, we've got to be tougher.
Yep.
I mean, he has laid out very clearly, these are the expectations for this program, and we expect to be a little better than where we've been. So to me, I guess I mean, again, that's, he has a ton of experience, and he's been doing this for a long time, and kind of understands the right buttons to push. But I would think that as a fan, that's what you want to hear, right?
Yes.
Hey, we need to be better here.
Exactly. You want that coach to hold accountability. He wants to hold his players accountable. Again, a little bit scary numbers here. Last in the Big Ten in hitting, 11th in the Big Ten in fielding. You're middle of the road pitching-wise. But for a Nebraska club that has that much talent on it, Will Bolt is saying the right things. Like, our players, our coaches have to be more accountable, because we have to be better than this.
They head to Ohio State coming up this weekend. In terms of the schedule stuff, just give people a sense of when the selection committee kind of looks at resumes. Is schedule strength a big part of it?
It has become a big part of it.
So you are rewarded even if you...
Yes.
Even if, so similar to basketball, dissimilar from football.
Right. Exactly. Yes. Okay. Very true. Now, granted, you get to play, 15, 20 games.
There's so many more
versus
games.
Football, you get 2 or 3.
Right.
But you're absolutely right. I think what we saw literally 6, 7 years ago, which was wonderful, because when we were at Northwestern, you had to win the Big Ten to get to the tournament.
Yeah.
Now, all of a sudden, the NCAA committee has recognized that there are multiple Big Ten teams that, as they went out and played these SEC teams or these Pac-10 teams or ACC teams and won, they had to stop saying, okay, these guys are 15, 20 games over 500.
Right.
They're in 3rd place in the Big Ten.
Right.
They still deserve that NCAA bid. And it's been neat to see 3, 4, 5 Big Ten teams now consistently being offered that invite to the NCAA tournament.
So you're not buried, in other words.
No,
you get off to a
definitely
bad
not buried.
So those are the top teams to keep an eye on. Plenty more from Mike coming up. We're going to take a look at the top players in the Big Ten. Again, trying to make you conversant in Big Ten baseball today. Frozen Four is next week in Boston. 2 Big Ten teams still standing. Both will play on Thursday night, April the 7th. Minnesota taking on in-state foe Minnesota State, while Michigan will battle the Pioneers of Denver. And the Wolverines' leading scorer, Brendan Brisson, is joining us now. He is today's big interview. Brendan, congratulations on making it to the Final Four. Thank you so much for joining us here. It's interesting, in watching all those regional finals, it felt like it was all about defense kind of throughout college hockey, except for you guys. You scored 7 goals in a regional final. I know a couple of them were empty netters, but still, what was the message that Michigan sent with that offensive explosion?
Well, definitely that we can score. And, I saw earlier that something was said on the Big Ten that we're a high-octane offense, and I feel like we've shown that all year. And the 4 teams that, are going to Boston are all the top 4 offensive teams in the country. So, there's going to be a lot of goals scored in Boston.
Brendan, there's been so much talk about this team this year being a team with 7 first-round picks. You are, of course, one of those first-round picks. How much pressure did you and your teammates feel to get to this point?
I mean, you look at our team, and this reason right here, this is why we all came back. We have 2 fifth years that came back, and, we want to win. That's why we all came back. And it doesn't matter about, all the draft picks we have, because everyone on our team is so important. And we're just looking forward to get to Boston, and we can't wait.
Now, you said this is a big part of the reason why guys came back. And part of the issue last year, of course, which was your freshman year, is that you didn't get to play in the tournament because of COVID. Yeah. So how did that factor in your personal decision? Like, did you speak with some of your teammates? How did all this kind of go down?
I mean, I feel like that's a huge advantage for us because, you look in the last 2 years, before I came in, the whole country was shut down because of COVID, and they couldn't do the regionals or even the national tournament. And then last year we were the only team that got out because of COVID. So I feel like we got some fire coming into Boston, and it kind of showed in regionals and Big Ten tournament that we're not playing around, and these 3 other teams that are going to Boston with us are really good, but we want to show why we finished off #1.
I want to get into previewing the Frozen Four with you in a bit, but your background is so fascinating. Your dad, Pat, is probably the most well-known agent in all of hockey. He has incredibly high-profile clients, and you got a chance as a young person to spend a lot of time around some of the most famous names in the sport. Which of them has had the biggest impact on you? Which of those players?
For sure. I mean, probably Sidney Crosby. I mean, I know, probably the best player to ever play the game. Yeah, it's kind of weird talking about it, but he was like my babysitter at one point, and he was always around the house when he was 17, 18, before he was even playing in the NHL. So, and there's just a bunch of other guys that were always around the house when I was a kid, and even nowadays you learn so much from them, and it's part of a reason why I'm here today.
You said you learned so much. What are some of the biggest things that you have learned from being around really successful professional hockey players?
Just the work ethic, all the work that they put in. I had Nathan McKinnon, shooting pucks in my backyard, and I remember me and my younger brother Jordan, we were like hiding from him. We were so scared. He was just always out there ripping pucks, and it was pretty cool to see. And I feel like at the end of the day too, they were all just such good people, and they treated everyone the way that you would want to be treated. And I feel like that has, a big impact on why they're such good professional athletes as well.
You mentioned Sidney Crosby, and of course you followed in his footsteps to a certain degree, right? You went to Shattuck St. Mary's, which is really well known, first of all, as a great school, but also as kind of a hockey factory. Jonathan Toews would be one of the other superstars who went there, but I mean, it's a huge, long litany of NHL players, Crosby as well. What did you learn there? How did your game improve at Shattuck?
Honestly, when I went to Shattuck when I was 14, it kind of taught me, hockey's a lifestyle. You live on campus, you're, rooming with all your best friends, going to classes with all your best friends and teammates, and, everyone just pushes each other to be better, and, there's no better place around the country to develop as a young hockey player, and, it was the best decision I've ever made is to go there and graduate, spend 3 years there. It just made me, a better hockey player and better person.
And then you went from there to the USHL, which is junior hockey, and your dad is quick to point out you were a 10th round pick there and then became a first round pick in the NHL. So how did your game improve so dramatically? Like, when did you realize you had gone from being a really good prospect to an elite prospect?
I feel like, I was just patient and, just always worked hard. I was never the biggest guy, but I always had just, that love for the game, and was just using my resources around me to get better and shooting pucks, in the gym, staying after, after practice, getting extra ice. And, Chicago was a huge, step for my development. Their coaching staff and, the way they held as an organization was really good, and just gave me time to develop, and I needed that extra year before going in, and being a Wolverine.
So again, you were picked by Las Vegas in the draft. When will you make a decision about next year?
I mean, I feel like I could talk for most of my teammates or some of my teammates. We're just focusing on going to Boston and, playing these next 2 games. And, after that, that's when we'll make a decision. But I haven't really thought about that right now. It's just all about, Denver.
Have you picked an agent yet?
I don't know. We haven't talked about that either. So.
A lot of pressure internally. You were part of Team USA at the Olympics this year. You scored a pair of goals, obviously. I know it didn't end quite as the guys on Team USA wanted it to, but it's interesting. We had Ben Myers on yesterday as well, and I asked him the same question I'm going to ask you, which is, what was that experience like? I mean, to represent your country.
I mean, you know, growing up, I was lucky enough to get the chance to represent Team USA on certain stages, but, you know, nothing was like being at the Olympics. It's just something you grew up watching. Everyone watches. It's, you know, the highest sports event ever and in the world, and just being able to be there with a bunch of great guys and sharing experiences, you know, with my Michigan teammate Matty Beniers was also really special. And wasn't the ending that we wanted, but, you know, I made a bunch of friends and relationships that are gonna, you know, I'm gonna have the rest of my life. And, you know, just the memories that I had in the village and, you know, going to different events, and hopefully one day I'll be able to go back, but, you know, it's a long shot. There's so many great players that, you know, born in the United States. And, you know, it was just overall an unbelievable experience. And, you know, I got a lot of pictures and memories that I just can't wait to share with my family when I get back home for the summer.
That is super cool. And then you came back. I mean, traveling to China is a big deal, right? I mean, part of it is, you know, I'm old, you're young, so I guess your body clock is different. But to just come back and reintegrate into your team, how big a challenge was that in terms of body clock? And how big a challenge was that in terms of the fact that they played really well without you guys?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it was really good for our team that when me, Kent, Owen, and Maddie were gone, they had so much success. And, you know, guys just took leaps in their games. I mean, you look at Luke Hughes, he's just been absolutely torching college hockey. And,
yes.
You know, it's been cool to see all the guys that have made really big steps on, you know, playing in the little bigger roles. And when we came back, you know, the team did a really good job of, you know, welcoming us back. And it was kind of hard. I mean, we were kind of fatigued for a little bit, honestly. You know, it was 42-hour travel day.
Oh,
but, you know, at the end of the day, you know, it was a long time, but we're ready for Boston.
When it's 42 hours, it's longer than a travel day, right? I mean, that's great. Let's travel a couple days. That's insane. Hey, how important was it for you guys to win the Big Ten tournament? What did that mean to you after not winning the regular season?
Yeah, I mean, not winning, you know, the regular season, you know, kind of hurt us a little bit, but, you know, Minnesota is also an unbelievable team, and we knew we were going to face them again down the road, and we so happened to face them in the championship game, and, you know, winning that game was really big for us. Put us, I think, in the, you know, #1 seed going into the regionals and national tournament, which was huge, and just being able to be the Big Ten playoff champions, something special. And, you know, that banner's going to hang in Yost forever. So, you know, we're looking for one more banner.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know you want to hang one more. The first step along the way is Denver. They are a team that leads the nation in goals per game, although, as you said, you guys are not far behind. This is a really high-scoring group of teams. But give us a quick thumbnail on the biggest challenges against Denver.
Just, you know, their offense. They're really deep offensively. You know, Bobby Brink, Cole Gutman, you know, those guys are really good. I played against them, playing with them growing up. And, you know, you can't really give them space. So we're just going to have to be all over them, you know, from the start of the puck drop, and capitalize on our chances because they got a really good goalie as well. And, you know, our coaching staff are going to do a really good job on, you know, putting us through practice this week and preparing us for, you know, how they're going to play. And, you know, once that puck drops, we'll be ready.
Brendan, looking forward to watching it. Brendan Brisson, again, congratulations on all of your accolades and accomplishments to this point, and best of luck in Boston.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Our pleasure. We're going to turn the page to some NBA draft talk next. The Big Ten, several players poised to be Western's Ethan O'Donnell, the Conference Player of the Week, driving in 13 runs in 4 games. Indiana's Bradley Brimmer, the Pitcher of the Week, while the Huskers' Garrett Anglim was the Freshman of the Week, drove in 6 runs in a win over Michigan. Mike Huff is back with us. We're going to talk about his top players. Let's start with the hitters. And you talk about transfers. There are a lot of transfers in here, including a catcher who's making a lot of noise with his bat.
Yeah, this big old donkey for Indiana. We saw him just a second ago. Matthew Ellis, hitting 300, which is great. Catcher, kind of DH guy, but 6'4", bats left-handed, 11 home runs already.
Wow.
Leading the Big Ten, 33 RBIs already, leading the Big Ten. And again, a kid who started out at Tennessee, didn't really feel the vibe there, didn't go well in the fall, went to a junior college, and then now he's transferred after a couple years to Indiana, and he has been very impactful in that lineup.
It seems like he's found his home.
I think he definitely has, yes.
You have another transfer guy who was successful at his first stop, but really lighting it up for Rutgers as well.
Yeah, clearly. I mean, the next gentleman, Nick Samillo from Rutgers, also a catcher, 6'3", beautiful left-handed swing, or right-handed swing guy here, hitting .439, leading the entire Big Ten in hitting. Part of the reason that Rutgers team is doing so well, a 1288 on-base percentage, OPS, but 10 doubles, 5 home runs, 18 walks, and only 12 strikeouts. So even having that much power, he's got a great eye, and obviously he's able to barrel up these balls. He's able to get into good hitter situations, and he's not afraid to take a walk. So again, one of my teammates, Frank Thomas, had a pretty good career taking a few walks here and there. You know, Nick's doing a great job. But like you said, Nick was a freshman All-American in collegiate baseball at Manhattan University. And then last year, his junior year, he was on the Johnny Bench award list. So clearly it wasn't just, you know, the smaller conferences, smaller divisions saying, hey, you're pretty good. It was the whole country and the top writers saying, behind the dish, not just hitting, but receiving, you are one of those players that we're going to follow. And that, I think, has been huge for the Rutgers pitching staff. To have a guy back there that can receive like that, that understands how to call a game. Oh, and then, by the way, he's mashing the baseball, and like you said earlier about Rutgers, just crushing the ball and leading the Big Ten in hitting. So, I mean, he has been incredibly impactful for that Rutgers ball club. So
a couple transfers there, and again, I think that's why this is really helpful for fans who maybe followed it last spring and are just getting reintegrated this year. But there is one name you wanted to point out, a guy who Big Ten fans would be familiar with, Jeb from Michigan State.
Exactly. A little bit more like us. Just a 6', 6'1" guy, middle infielder, doing a great job.
I don't know if you've gauged my height recently, but it's not 6 foot or 6'1".
But Mitch Jeb was on the all-freshman Big Ten team last year. And when you're a middle infielder, top of the order at Michigan State, you have a lot of pressure on you. And he's only a sophomore. And he's got this type of pressure to lead the ball club. Oh, and by the way, he's hitting a cool .350 to this point, leading the team in runs scored. He's got 5 doubles, 2 triples, 5 home runs, 8 stolen bases. He's driving in guys. And that, to me, is one of those players that's going to help that Michigan State club maybe win a couple close ball games, keep them over 500, keep them potentially in that, you know, NCAA picture. But I love watching, you know, guys like that come to the Big Ten and are able to develop within the Big Ten, as much as I like the fact that some of these Big Ten coaches can look outside, bring in someone, and get them into their system, into their scheme quickly, and have impactful players.
Good fielder as well.
Oh, my gosh, great glove, yep.
Pitchers, Maryland, we talked about the hot start for the Terps. Ryan Ramsey's been unbelievable.
Yeah, it's kind of hard not to say, hey, you're 6 starts and you're going to be 6-0. So
that's pretty good.
You know, pretty good. 2.11 ERA, which is kind of 4th in the Big Ten right now, but leading the Big Ten in wins with 6. Again, 38 1/3 innings pitch, which is 2nd. So here's a guy that's going to go out there, not only take the ball, but he's going to get you deep into games. So you're saving your bullpen for those 1 or 2 starts that obviously the team struggles a little bit. 40 strikeouts already, which again is like 4th in the Big Ten, only 11 walks. And last year, Ryan was a 2nd-team All-Big Ten guy. But what was interesting was that he was drafted out of high school by the Cleveland Indians, who we know are incredible with working with pitching staffs and pitchers. So if Cleveland saw something about him, late draft, obviously chose, didn't get enough money to Maryland. But if Cleveland is thinking you're a good pitcher, you're probably a good pitcher, and he's proving it so far this year.
Averaging more than a strikeout per inning pitch, so he's really been good. Rutgers has a grad transfer off to a really good start. Tell us about him.
And these are great stories. Again, Jared Collar from Rutgers, starting pitcher, 4-year starter at Seton Hall. And as he was graduating, realized, hey, I want to take my game up one more level. I want to go to a little bit more competition, and Rutgers is the spot. Great job, again, by Steve Owens bringing in somebody that can not just help a ball club, but be impactful. At Seton Hall, he was 5-0 with a 1.19 ERA.
Wow.
So not sure how he doesn't get drafted, but I'm sure for the Rutgers Scarlet Knights, they're really happy. Again, 4-0 right now, 39 Ks, fifth, only 3 walks. So that's a 13-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio, which is so far and away the best in the Big Ten right now. And again, when you have someone that can go deep, someone that doesn't give free passes, and you've got a team that's playing great defense, oh my gosh, you're going to find yourself winning a lot more ball games.
That's some pretty good control there.
That's some great control.
Yes.
That's Greg Maddox type control.
Yes. Purdue has a star coming out of the pen. Tell us about him.
Yep, Landon Weens from Purdue, one of those relief guys. Last year, led the team in appearances, but again, started off at Morehead State. Didn't quite fit there, went to a junior college, came to Purdue last year, did a nice job. But right now, again, Bugs Bunny type numbers. He has got an 0.79 ERA. He's 2-0 with the save, 22 innings pitched. Again, 24 strikeouts, only 4 walks. So as you're coming out of the bullpen, whether it's the 7th, 8th inning when those toughest batters are up or closing a game, he's been able to come in and provide Greg Goff, that guy that can stop any momentum another team is having, really shut things down, go for a couple innings, maybe get a few more runs where then the coach can take him out and you have another win. And for Purdue, we've seen it's a good combination.
Yeah, they're
stacking
up some
them
wins.
up.